Hello and welcome everyone back to another episode of the Adam Zero Show. Rare matinee today, going live here at 1 p.m. on Saturday, February 8th, 2025. Decided to do an earlier show today due to some other personal things I have going on. But I am still happy to be joining you guys here. For everyone who's tuning in from wherever you are, I can say I'm having a pretty good day myself. Of course, before we begin, make sure you guys always leave a like, comment down below, share this video with a friend, and of course, turn on notifications so you do not miss another episode of the show. Of course, like always, any questions for a mailbag can be sent to the adamhazareshow@gmail.com. The email address, all lowercase, or you tag the Adam Hazara Show at X, capital A in Adam, capital H Hazara, and then the capital S in Show as always. Tag it there. You can also put it in the chat if you want. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And without further ado, let's get started. So today we have a lot to talk about, like always. Got some stuff on the girls basketball front, which you're going to start with. Of course, very big there for Lake Braddock as they've finally won some games. And we'll get into that in just a few moments. And on the boys' side, we will be talking about their week as well, recapping a couple of games. And we'll also preview some games for both sides coming up next week, as it will be the final week of regular season play. So some interesting things should be going on in this coming week as well. So, girls basketball for Lake Braddock, it has finally happened. They have finally won a game that came on Thursday with a 46-38 win over the Alexandria City Titans. Way to go to, of course, the Lake Braddock girls basketball team for winning that. That snapped a very long 16-game losing streak, arguably one of the longest losing streaks in Lake Braddock history in girls basketball. They also got their first district win and home win since last year, so a win right there. Just didn't mean snapping the 16-game losing streak, but meant a couple of the other things right there I just mentioned, of course. And I think you could tell at one point, with the Bruins in girls, it was probably going to be coming, one of these 2 days. I think, you could really feel it coming on, the Bruins in terms of their chemistry. It's been getting better ever since they've gotten fully healthy. About a month ago, of course, they've had to go through a lot of tough teams, and they kind of didn't start facing some of the weaker teams until the later part of this season, as in the last couple of weeks. And with that, I think you were probably sensing that they would probably finally snap a 16-game losing streak. Of course, there were a few close calls, and where they probably could have won a game earlier. Unfortunately, they came up short in those contests and finally won over the Alexandria City Titans on Thursday. So big news there. Finally getting a win. Of course, in the Alexandria City game, they're still playing neck and neck for a lot of the game, but through a lot of the game, Bruins were still persevering. Pacey Magnuson, really big game again. 14 points in that game, leading the Bruins. Talk about story she's been this season. Out first month, the ankle injury, came back, big part of the Bruins team, and got healthy. Been starting a lot now as a regular for a while, and she's been doing a lot of great things. on both sides of the ball. Kenzie Berger had 10 points. Emily DePaul, as always, had a big number of points. So a lot of good things to see in that game. Bruins came up to play that night, did a really good job adjusting to a tough Titans defense that was playing full court press all the time. Titans team was very big too in length. Bruins did a great job combating that and finding ways to outduel their length. Got a lot of key shots off. Did what they needed to do and found open spaces. Just really came up when it mattered the most in that game. And then it was also great if they got that win out of the way, because the next day, Friday, which was yesterday, they're going to be playing Westfield at home, which is the day of their senior night. And usually senior night is usually the final regular season home game of the season. But this year, with this late season out-of-district matchup where it would only be varsity playing, no freshman or JV action, they thought obviously it would be easier just to have it, just have it that day, besides doing on just like, regular game where there's a district contest where it's the final home game and you still have to wait for, the freshman and JV games to be fully played. And so with that, Bruins got a lot of breathing room. So with the events board game for it being varsity only, so that's why they moved it up to the second to last home game of the season. So just wanted to quickly note that real quick. And then, of course, it was really big to get out of the way. Especially going into that senior night, the Bruins didn't have the idea of that 16-game losing streak hovering over them. They were able to get out of the way the night before, just in the nick of time, I should say. And so they were able to honor their seniors without having that wing over their head, and also celebrate well in the senior night. Big win. Emily DePaul, great in that game. Career high, 18 points. Of course, a great game there. We're still very competitive throughout a lot, but for Bruins, had some double-digit leads, in the second half a few times, and that's kind of when they started to pull away the most, and they held it out for the rest of the game. And they were able to pull off their second straight win. So certainly the Bruins have some momentum going into the final week of the season now. Of course, again, it feels really good, of course, to get that 16-game losing streak right away. Again, bad situation a team is not wanting to be in, but happy that, also they could, finally get, even if it's just one win, even to say they didn't win versus Alexandria City or Westfield. I think even, just winning one of those games is still really big, proves that they can win this season, besides just being, in the early season, December 7th, which is when their last win was, and only win of the season was, in that, that they were able to, not just have one single win all season. And so, of course, that is a big confidence booster for them. I think, with Lake Braddock, fully healthy, and then beating Alexandria City, now being Westfield, I think you can probably start saying that, they might be competitive in the district tournament coming up. That will be 2 weeks from now. Now, for girls this year, again, I don't think they're really going to stand much of a chance against some of the higher half of district, with teams like South County, Woodson, Robinson, and West Potomac, who are all really good and who the Bruins have not really played the closest with this year. I think those teams have a far better amount of talent on them, and they're just far better overall than the Bruins this year, as we've seen. Bruins do have one more match with those teams. It's going to be hosting West Potomac at home on Tuesday. Now, with all the snow coming, that game probably gets postponed. I've heard talks it's supposed to get moved to next Saturday, being the 15th. So that's probably when they play that. And then they wrap up the regular season. That's probably when they'll wrap up regular season day before that, which is the game that's scheduled to end the regular season is they're going to be away at Fairfax for that one. Get into a couple of those games, but again, with the West Potomac game, they're probably not going to win that. So sadly, their 2-game losing streak probably comes in. They might have a chance versus Fairfax. And I think as the standings stand right now in the district, Bruins are probably the 8th seed. And right now, West Springfield is the 5 seed. So, and maybe there is a chance, maybe they do hop over, somehow maybe they do get over maybe Fairfax or AC to be maybe the 7 or a 6 seed. Determined they'd still be away, but won't be away if they were the 7 seed. I think they were 6 seed, then they would host the 7 seed with a new district tournament format that came about last year. But you might be able to see them string off, maybe a win in that first play-in round, maybe qualify for regionals. It's gonna be an interesting story. See how it is. I think, like I said, they're slated to, if the season were to end today, that they would be playing West Springfield in the first round of the district tournament, which would be the play-in round. That game would be at West Springfield. And, Bruins actually played pretty close with West Springfield. I think they do have a couple injuries right now to a couple of their key players. I know Hannah Warshaw, their 6-foot center, I think is out. Jalen Hillary is a big guard for him. It's been out right now. They still have Quinn Raposa, William Allure, who have been 2 big good guards for him the last few years. They're out, but the Bruins played a really close game with them. That was a game that Bruins nearly won, but they kind of, again, came up short in the end. That game back on the 31st of January, so that was 8 days ago. They played that game. And so, but anyway, the Bruins are still again able to snap that 16-game losing streak, but it'll be interesting to see. They'll be able to maybe win against West Springfield, and even against these injured teams, the Bruins, it's still good. I think the Bruins win because I think still lost against that West Springfield team that was missing some players. Obviously, Andrew City still played really tough. That game could have gone either way at any point. Westfield game, that was a fully healthy team actually last night the Bruins faced, and they were actually able to come up and beat them 47-40. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bruins do against some of these. At least maybe in the first round of a district play. And if they do win that, then they will qualify for regionals. When they probably get their regionals, they'll probably be facing one of the lower level national district teams, maybe, or maybe like Justice or an Annandale, like a team like that, or Lewis. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But I definitely think the Bruins could definitely make it more interesting. Definitely in the lower round games of a district in a regional tournament. If they do make it to a regional tournament, that is, we will see coming up in 2 weeks. They can get past that play-in round, which seems that you're going to be playing in that. But again, it will be really, interesting, cool to see what they do there. But I mean, in no means I think that they are going to go off, pull. I don't think this team is equipped to really pull off any massive upsets just with how many far better teams there are, and especially in that top half of a district, and even in the other side of a region over a national, you have some tough Edison Hayfield teams. They played a great game last night, and then a pretty solid Thomas Jefferson team that's been pretty good, and then Mount Vernon team I know over there who's not been terrible this year. It seems like, as they're over 500. So. Yeah, that's one of the few examples where you see a national district team not being a slouch. In most sports, usually it's just mainly basketball where it's known for, where, the teams from that district are most competitive with the other side of a region, the Patriot district, whenever those teams play each other. So it sort of makes there some interesting matchups again, basketball coming up. So have that going on. And then next week they could maybe, that one game to watch out for. Now, this is not going to be a very big matchup. I mentioned West Potomac game, probably not going to win out one. West Potomac is way better. But the Bruins might have a chance against Fairfax next Friday. That game will probably be played. It's on Valentine's Day. But point of being in that game is that, we'll probably be all past all the snow at that point. Of course, depends on how much snowfall there is. and how long school's closed. I mean, there's probably a better chance, at the end of the week, snow is supposed to hit Tuesday, Wednesday. So maybe there's a chance if they play that game Friday. So we'll see if they move that game too. But I think that's definitely a game where the Bruins could play competitive with the Lions. They did the first matchup back on, I believe it was January 21st when they played them. Bruins lost the game 50-43. They're fully healthy, but I think now that they've definitely clicked on all cylinders, and they definitely, again, have a momentum coming off a couple wins. And even if they do lose their West, I still think that they'll have, just, with the mindset now that they have wins compared back then when they played Fairfax first, they didn't have any of those wins at that point. I think Bruins definitely have more edge, more confidence, more momentum going in. And I think that they could definitely give them an edge into that. In Fairfax, you could maybe see some flip-flopping in the 8 and 7 seeds where Fairfax is in the 7 seed right now. Maybe you could see, depending on how the other game that Fairfax plays early that week. I don't know who they're playing. But, maybe depending if the Bruins can win maybe that game versus Fairfax, you could see maybe the Bruins jump up to the 7 seed and maybe even the 6 seed, depending on how Alexandria City plays, a couple of their last games. And, so the Bruins could, actually jump up a couple of spots for a team that has been on a 16-game losing streak this year. Certainly earned some interest. There's a couple of interesting possible scenarios, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens next week. But once again, congratulations to Braddock girls basketball for pulling off a win on Thursday, snapping that big losing streak. And of course, congratulations to all the seniors who were honored last night once again. Great atmosphere, especially both those games. Just one more thing, the Alexandria City game, it definitely had a feel of, it almost felt like a state title game. I'll say that. Almost felt like a state title game. Just felt like, again, Bruins, just the feeling, beyond a 16-game losing streak, it felt like there's a ton at stake. And that, just felt like, everyone was on their feet. Everyone was getting loud. Everyone was cheering on the Bruins on their side. I mean, it was a really great feeling to see. So we'll get on to some boys talk now. And yeah, it was a bit of an interesting week on the boys' side too, particularly in that game versus Woodson on Monday. Now, Woodson, who seems to be the favorites to win the Patriot District right now, and for Woodson, who blew out the Bruins 74-48 back on January 10th, the Bruins actually played a really, really good game with them all throughout, in my opinion. The Bruins were actually winning by a point at the half on Monday. And, this is interesting to see because this Bruins team has really turned a tide. And I think really what's been a key for them is they've gotten fully healthy. We're seeing what the Bruins are now really capable of at full potential. Of course, Khalid Cash, Walker Mitchell have been hurt for Bruins this year. They've finally gotten healthy. They've been getting less rusty as they've continued to play more. They've gotten on the right stride right now. Riley Peterson, who was out a couple games, who's been playing good defense, good rebounding for Bruins off a bench this season. He's back now. You're definitely seeing what this Bruins team is fully capable of coming down the stretch here. And, they could actually make things pretty interesting. And, I don't know if it's really safe to say this, but the Bruins may be threatening for a district final in some appearance, in some capacity, showing how close they can play with a few of these teams. Bruins have full strength. They can play close with Woodson. I think the Bruins have full strength now. Even with Sack playing fully healthy, they had some injuries to their key guards, Yusuf Washington and Elijah Eccleston. And, I don't know how healthy South County will get coming into the district tournament in a couple weeks, but most certainly the Bruins, I think, could definitely defensively, they can keep up with anyone now that they're fully healthy. I think you're seeing what they're really capable of, and they could kind of be a dark horse team there. I would say, I don't know if they're going to really go that far, and I'm just going to go on a limb and say I don't think they will. I think there's just teams that have a lot more weapons that the Bruins do. And they're just a bit more experienced and, again, just have a lot more going for them on all their facets overall. But, The Bruins can certainly make things interesting, especially against a Woodson team that has a lot of really good seniors, a couple of D-Freak players. Of course, you got the D1 offerman and Kalen Chilton, who has the offer from a good school in West Virginia. Really fun game to see there. Now, I will question one of their, seemed like Nate McComb was not playing a lot in that fourth quarter. I don't know if he was injured or in that game on Monday or what was going on with him. Again, if he was not injured, and I think he was still playing, and I don't know if he strained himself or had a cramp or anything, but anything minor like that. But certainly was interesting to see him not really in that fourth quarter as much. But again, the Bruins still did a really nice job combating without Woodson team. They're definitely making some interesting things happen. Of course, they get a needed win. They had to win against the worst team in the district on Thursday, again at Alexandria City, beating them 76-58. Got a lot of contributions. Tye Clayton, of course, was great. Nate McComb was really great, as always. Xavier Main, continues to play well. He's come out of early season rust that he had after coming off his football season. Walker Mitchell actually had his biggest game. He scored, I believe, 7 points off a bench. Dean Johnson had one of his bigger games in a while. It was good to see that. I think Riley Peterson had a pretty good game on defense. And yeah, so overall, those were several players who the Bruins contributed to their win on Thursday. They will be going up against Fairfax and West Potomac, just like the girls are, in this upcoming week. Our West Potomac team is actually even better now, because we mentioned earlier in the season how they lost three of their best players to Bishop O'Connell in the offseason as they opted to transfer there. One of them, in first-team All-District guard Chris Morrison, who was one of the major parts of their regional winning team last year, is now back and gives West Po a good offensive boost for a team that's really struggled offensively this year. They've won most of their games because they've had really good defense, kind of like we've seen for Bruins at times. And all across the Patriot District, seems like, there's a lot of low-scoring contests. Maybe except it's like Woodson. Woodson's the only team that's really scored a lot. I know South County scored a lot too when they're fully healthy. Again, a big boost there for the Wolverines. I certainly could put an edge over a few of the other teams who don't have as much offense going for them. But I think the Bruins could definitely pull off a couple wins this week. Of course, at West Potomac game, Bruins lost by 14 last time. But again, Tye Clayton, I think, had that ankle scare, and the Bruins really weren't playing him a lot. He had 0 points that game. Bruins can get him going. Should be a lot closer, even with the Wolverines having Chris Morrison back. Of course, they played really close to Woodson, who's a lot better than West Potomac. And so I think that's something Bruins also have going for them. So don't be surprised if Bruins play close with West Potomac coming up in that Fairfax game. That's actually a Fairfax team that they already beat on the road this year. So it'll be pretty close since Fairfax plays pretty good defense. But I know they really struggled lately because they've had some major offensive issues. But still, be an interesting game to see. Cam Yingling and company will come to Braddock probably on Friday. Should be a good matchup. I believe a boys' senior night is that day. And for them, it'll be the final regular season home game that they have before districts. And so they're going to look to cap off a big week. So a big week for them, of course, as well in the standings, facing a couple of teams who are kind of there in the, believe around, hold on, let me check the standings real quick for boys. So, yeah, so the Bruins are currently 5th place right now, it seems like, at being 6-6 in district play. The Wolverines are 2nd at being, actually, this is a bit outdated, but Bruins are actually, I believe, 7-6. I believe the Wolverines might be 8-4. So the Bruins could, there's still some room there for Bruins to really jump up. They could probably jump up, past, who else is ahead of them? Robinson, South County. Bruins could maybe get ahead of them. As well, 2 teams that they have played very well with this year, beat Robinson both times. We'll see what South County with their injury situation is. But again, be an interesting week for the standings. It could definitely be a lot of scenarios, but Bruins, could definitely, I think, if they get some momentum going and, have some luck go their way, then, certainly they could jump back up to having to play in the, get a bye for a first round right now. They're slated to play in the play-in. I think it looks like they might host Alexandria City for first district game, and that should be a game they do win. Again, depending on how standings go next week, this is a team they could probably see coming up. Could definitely make some noise, and who knows, maybe they go on a district final run. Continue to ramp a nice story this season. Bruins were 3-20 last year, arguably their worst season, and then they could maybe really, they turn the tides really well this year, a lot better. Definitely a lot more talent on a team. Just overall a lot more better play. And so, maybe we see them going from 3-20, maybe going to a district final. Who knows? Maybe they could pull off something miracle that they can win a district title. That I could also, I wouldn't, certainly, I wouldn't call it likely, but it certainly wouldn't be something that I would rule out at the time of this recording, especially with how Bruins gotten off full strength. And, they're going to really surprise some people. Keep that in mind coming up. I'm going to see if we have any questions for the mailbag today. Give me 1 second, please. No, we do not. All right, so that's going to end today's first ever matinee of the Adam Mazzara Show. Running at 26 minutes and 42 seconds. Yep. Oh, thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you next time. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications. Share this video with a friend. And most importantly, have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.